In the looming haze of the 1930s and 40s, a mechanical behemoth roared to life, casting an ominous shadow over the battlefields of World War II. Behold the German Panzers, a formidable fleet of armored tanks that symbolized the might and innovation of Nazi Germany. Under the aegis of visionaries like Heinz Guderian, a new era of armored warfare was birthed, changing the face of modern warfare forever. From the agile Panzer I to the behemoth Panzer VIII Maus, these war machines were a testament to German engineering prowess. Their rapid advances during the Blitzkrieg campaigns of Poland and France left their adversaries paralyzed, struggling to counter this newfound threat. But what was the secret behind the Panzers' unmatched power and efficiency? How did they revolutionize the tactics of armored warfare? Amidst the roar of engines and the thunder of cannons, one might recall the words of Winston Churchill. The Germans brought the best hunting rifle to the game, but the British and Americans had the best hunting team. A nod to the sheer technological dominance of the Panzers, yet an acknowledgement that technology alone couldn't dictate the outcome of the war. Can you fathom the dread and respect these steel giants instilled in the hearts of both allies and foes? The raw power of a panzer column advancing under a stormy sky, the ground trembling beneath their tracks. Join us as we delve deep into the annals of history, exploring the inception, evolution, and the ultimate legacy of the German Panzers. Welcome to the Diary of Julius Caesar. Steel Titans rise, the dawn of German armored warfare. In the annals of military history, few innovations have had as profound an impact as the tank. As Europe's political climate heated up in the early 20th century, the need for armored land vehicles became apparent. Germany, though initially lagging, would soon be at the forefront of this mechanized revolution. The earliest conception of a vehicle that would become the tank occurred in the muddy trenches of World War I. The British took the lead, unveiling their armored vehicles in 1916. Germany, realizing the potential of such machines, quickly initiated their own designs. Yet, it was after the Treaty of Versailles in the interwar years that the true prowess of German tank engineering began to take shape. The treaty had imposed severe restrictions on the German military, limiting its ability to develop and deploy heavy armaments. But adversity often breeds ingenuity. Hidden training grounds in Russia became the secret crucible where Germany's first armored divisions honed their skills. It was here, away from prying international eyes, that men like Heinz Guderian, often hailed as the father of German armored warfare, began to envision a new way of war. Guderian was heavily influenced by British theorists like J.F.C. Fuller and B.H. Liddell Hart, who advocated for the use of swift armored units to break enemy lines. But it was Guderian who would adapt and evolve these theories to fit the unique demands of German strategy. Anecdotes from these secret training days paint a vivid picture. One tale speaks of Guderian observing a tank drill and suddenly ordering the tanks to halt, just to climb atop one and loudly proclaim, "Gentlemen, the future of German warfare rests on these steel beasts." His words, though dramatic, were prophetic. The 1930s saw a surge in German tank development. The Panzer I, initially intended for training, was soon followed by the more combat-ready Panzer II. As the decade drew to a close, whispers of these armored behemoths began to circulate throughout Europe. Curiously, during the 1936 Berlin Olympics, foreign delegates were discreetly shown a mock display of these tanks, a move intended both to boast of German prowess and to gauge foreign reactions. It wasn't just the machines that were evolving, the men inside them were too. Erwin Rommel, later known for his legendary North African campaigns, began his tryst with tanks in these early days. A quote attributed to him during a training exercise in the late 1930s captures the essence of German armored philosophy. Speed is armor, indecision is death. But it wasn't all about the big names. Unknown engineers, working tirelessly behind the scenes, were the unsung heroes. Take, for instance, the curious case of the mulberry tree at the Kummersdorf testing ground. Engineers, looking to test the resilience of their tank treads, would repeatedly drive their prototypes into this unfortunate tree. The mulberry bore the brunt of these tests for years, becoming a silent testament to German engineering grit. As Germany's armoured divisions grew in strength and number, they caught the attention of international military observers. Reports filtered back to foreign capitals filled with a mix of awe and trepidation. Yet, few could predict the storm that was about to be unleashed in the form of Blitzkrieg during World War II. From humble beginnings to steel giants, the Panzers' journey. In a world teetering on the brink of yet another global conflict, Germany was in a race against time. Their goal, to perfect the art of armoured warfare. The Panzer, a name that would send chills down the spine of many an enemy soldier, was at the heart of this ambition. Its evolution tells a tale of innovation, audacity, and a relentless pursuit of military excellence. The Panzer's story began in the early 1930s. The Panzer I, initially designed as a training tank, rolled out in 1934. While modestly armed and thinly armoured, it provided invaluable lessons. The Panzer II, which followed shortly in 1936, was an improvement but still lacked the punch needed for frontline combat. It was, however, in Spain during the Civil War that these tanks first tasted battle. German commanders, including a young Walter Wenck, keenly observed their performance, gathering vital battlefield data. 1937 marked a significant leap with the introduction of the Panzer III. Designed to engage enemy tanks, it was equipped with a 37 mm gun, later upgraded to a more formidable 50 mm. Meanwhile, the Panzer IV, initially rolled out the same year, was intended to support infantry with its short-barreled, low-velocity 75 mm gun. But as with all things in warfare, adaptability was key. The Panzer IV would see several upgrades, with its high-velocity 75 mm gun becoming a mainstay in later models. As the war raged on, tales of Panzer heroics began to emerge. One such story is of Kurt Nispel, considered the top tank ace of WW2. Operating primarily in the Tiger I and II, Nispel's skills and gallantry were legendary, with 168 confirmed tank kills. Yet he was known not just for his prowess, but his humility. Knispel never wore any of his medals, believing that camaraderie and duty were above recognition. By 1942, as the Eastern Front intensified, the need for a heavier, more robust tank became evident. Enter the Tiger I. This beast, equipped with an 88 mm gun, was virtually impervious to frontal attacks and struck terror into the hearts of Allied tank crews. Its successor, the Tiger II, or King Tiger, was an even more formidable presence on the battlefield. Introduced in 1944, its thick armor and powerful gun made it a force to be reckoned with. Yet, Germany's thirst for tank superiority didn't end there. The experimental Panzerkampfwagen VIII Maus was a project that epitomized the audacity of German engineering. Weighing in at a staggering 188 tons, it remains the heaviest fully enclosed armored fighting vehicle ever built. While the Maus never saw combat, its very existence is a testament to Germany's relentless drive for innovation. Legend has it that when Albert Speer, the Minister of Armaments, was shown the Maus prototype, he quipped, "Gentlemen, I think we might have overdone it this time." Throughout the war, the panzer divisions were not just about the machines, but the men who operated them. Take, for instance, the bond between a tank crew. In the heat of battle, communication was often non-verbal. A mere nod or hand gesture sufficed. Crews often personalized their tanks, painting nicknames or symbols, a small touch of humanity in the grim theater of war. Masters of metal, Germany's artistry in tank design. In the shadows of factory walls and amidst the clatter of machinery, a revolution was unfolding. Germany, with its storied engineering legacy, was embarking on a journey to reshape the landscape of armored warfare. Delving into the intricacies of tank design and innovation, we find stories of genius, perseverance, and the relentless quest for battlefield superiority. The 1930s marked a period of intense experimentation. The early panzers, while formidable, revealed certain vulnerabilities. It was clear that for tanks to dominate, they needed more than just firepower, they needed protection. Enter the concept of sloped armor. By angling the armor plates, the effective thickness increased without adding weight, providing a dual advantage of deflection and increased protection. Dr. Ernst Knepkamp, a pivotal figure in German armored vehicle development, played a role in integrating such design philosophies. However, it wasn't just about defense. Mobility was equally crucial. A tank's suspension system is its lifeline, allowing it to traverse rugged terrains and maintain speed. The German Christie suspension, inspired by American engineer J. Walter Christie's designs, was a marvel in this regard. It featured large road wheels that provided both speed and stability. The Panther tank, introduced in 1943, employed this system to devastating effect, combining speed, agility, and firepower. Speaking of speed, the heart of these steel beasts was their engine. German tanks were powered by some of the most advanced engines of their time. The Maybach company, under the guidance of Karl Maybach, was instrumental in this domain. Their engines, like the Maybach HL 230, roared with unmatched power, propelling the Tiger and Panther tanks across Europe's diverse landscapes. Within these stories of engineering brilliance, there are moments of sheer human ingenuity. An anecdote from the Eastern Front speaks of a Tiger tank crew stranded due to engine failure. With enemy forces closing in, the crew ingeniously used vodka, sourced from a nearby abandoned Russian supply depot, as a makeshift coolant, allowing them to escape just in time. Such tales of resourcefulness were not uncommon, showcasing the marriage of man, machine, and moment. The innovation wasn't just technical, it was psychological. Tanks were designed to instill fear. Their imposing stature, the distinct roar of their engines, and their iconic profiles were all part of a carefully orchestrated psychological campaign. Heinz Guderian, one of the chief architects of Germany's tank forces, once remarked, "The engine of the Panzer is a weapon just as the main gun." Yet, it's essential to note that German tank design was a continuous process of learning and adaptation. They observed, learned from mistakes, and iterated. When the T-34S of the Soviet Union first clashed with the German forces, their sloped armor and wide tracks, ideal for the Russian terrains, caught the Germans by surprise. But the Germans were quick learners. The subsequent designs, especially the Panther, bore marks of these lessons, integrating sloped armor and improved mobility. While the tanks were a marvel of engineering, they were also canvases of art. Tank crews often adorned their vehicles with personal insignias, emblems, and sometimes even artwork. A famous Panther tank, known as Cuckoo, bore a unique insignia of the bird it was named after, painted by its crew, becoming a symbol of individuality amidst the vastness of war. Forging Titans, the Herculean task of German tank production. In the sprawling factories of Nazi Germany, amidst the symphony of hammers and the glow of molten metal, a colossal endeavor was underway. The ambition was clear: to produce armored leviathans in numbers and quality unparalleled. Yet, beneath the surface of this massive production machine, a complex web of challenges, innovations, and human stories unfolded. As the 1930s dawned, Germany's rearmament was in full swing. The factories of Krupp, Mann, and Henschel buzzed with activity, transforming blueprints into battlefield behemoths. Spearheading this endeavor was Fritz Todt, the engineering genius appointed by Hitler to oversee the Reich's armament production. Under his watchful eye, tank factories burgeoned, setting ambitious targets. By 1940, Germany was producing nearly 3,000 tanks annually, a number that would peak at over 17,000 by 1944. But numbers only tell half the story. The logistical challenges were enormous. Raw materials like tungsten and rubber were scarce. The blockade by Allied forces further strained these resources. Ingeniously, German engineers turned to alternative materials. For instance, when faced with a rubber shortage for tank wheels, they developed a blend of wood and metal, dubbed Eisenholz, or ironwood. This innovation, though not as durable as rubber, kept the tanks rolling. Albert Speer, who succeeded Todt following his sudden demise in 1942, played a pivotal role in streamlining production. Under his leadership, standardized designs were emphasized, reducing the variety of parts and simplifying the production process. Speer once famously declared, "We must gamble everything on one card," emphasizing the need to prioritize and focus resources where they mattered most. Yet the sheer scale of production wasn't without its hiccups. An anecdote from the Henschel factory in Kassel speaks of a Tiger tank that was mistakenly fitted with a radio meant for U-boats. The tank crew, bemused by receiving maritime communication, jokingly reported their position as somewhere in the Atlantic. The human aspect of tank production is both heartwarming and tragic. Women, children, and forced laborers from occupied territories were often employed in these factories. Their stories are tales of resilience and survival. Elsa, a Polish woman working in a tank assembly line in Essen, secretly etched her name and date inside a Panzer IV's armor plate, a silent testament to her existence amidst the chaos of war. As the tide of war began to turn against Germany, the urgency in tank production reached feverish levels. Factories, constantly under the threat of Allied bombings, were moved underground. The Mittelwerk facility, nestled in the Harz Mountains, is a prime example. Here, in cavernous tunnels, V-2 rockets and Panther tanks were assembled side by side, a grim juxtaposition of Germany's technological prowess and desperation. Amidst these challenges, there were moments of irony. In 1943, an American bombing raid on the Mann factory in Augsburg inadvertently improved the Panther tank's design. The factory was producing Panther tanks with side armor of 40 mm thickness. The bombing raid destroyed the molds for the 40 mm plates, and the factory, in a bid to continue production, opted for 50 mm plates. This unintentional upgrade made the Panther even more formidable. Knights of Steel, the valor and vigor of German tank commanders and crews. In the sprawling landscapes of war-torn Europe, amidst the cacophony of battle, the German Panzers roared to life. But within the belly of these steel beasts were men of valor, skill, and unmatched camaraderie. Their tales, often overshadowed by the grandeur of the tanks themselves, are stories of heroism, grit, and the indomitable human spirit. Michael Wittmann, the Black Baron, is a name that reverberated across both friend and foe. Born in 1914 in the Bavarian town of Vogelthal, Wittmann's journey from a simple farm boy to one of the most celebrated tank commanders of 1-2 is the stuff of legends. His audacious assault at Villers-Bocage in 1944, where he single-handedly destroyed a significant portion of a British armoured column, became a textbook example of tank warfare. Yet, amidst his accolades, Wittmann remained a humble soldier. Once, when asked about his remarkable skills, he simply remarked, "One needs a good crew." And Wittmann was right. For every celebrated commander, there was an unsung crew. Men like the loader, gunner, radio operator, and driver, each playing a pivotal role in the tank's operation. Their training was rigorous, often beginning with basic military drills before moving on to specialized tank training centers like Putlos or Krampnitz. Here, they learned not just the mechanics of their machines, but the art of warfare, tactics, communication, and survival. Otto Carius, another titan of tank warfare, hailed from Zweibrücken in the Rhineland-Palatinate. His exploits, particularly on the Eastern Front, earned him a reputation as a formidable adversary. Yet, Carius was more than just a soldier. He was a philosopher at heart. After a particularly grueling battle, he was known to muse, "War is a realm of uncertainty. 3/4 of the things on which all action in war is based are lying in a fog of uncertainty to a greater or lesser extent." His memoir, Tigers in the Mud, offers a profound insight into the psyche of a tank commander, blending the brutality of war with moments of introspection. Life inside a tank was far from glamorous. The interiors were cramped, with the constant drone of the engine and the acrid smell of oil and sweat. Crews often spent days inside their tanks, forging bonds that went beyond mere camaraderie. Anecdotes speak of crews sharing everything, from their rations to their hopes and fears. In the heat of battle, communication was often reduced to mere hand signals or eye contact, a testament to their deep understanding and trust. The bond between a crew was sacred. There's a touching tale of a Panzer crew from the Battle of Kursk. When their tank was hit and immobilized, The commander, severely injured, ordered his crew to abandon the tank, but they refused, choosing instead to stay and defend their stricken commander and their tank until the very end. Training wasn't just about warfare, it was also about survival. Tank crews were taught to extricate themselves from knocked-out tanks, often in mere seconds. They practiced this drill relentlessly, knowing that in battle, every second counted. They were also trained in first aid, ensuring they could tend to their wounded comrades if need be. Beyond the battlefield, tank crews found solace in small joys. They personalized their tanks, painting nicknames or emblems, a silent rebellion against the dehumanizing vastness of war. In the quieter moments, they shared stories from back home, played cards, or simply gazed at the stars, finding a momentary escape from the horrors of war. Thunder and lightning, the dance of Blitzkrieg and the symphony of combined arms. The winds of change were blowing across Europe. As the 1930s waned, a new form of warfare emerged from the heart of Germany, one that would reshape the very nature of combat. Its name, Blitzkrieg, meaning lightning war, perfectly encapsulated its essence: swift, devastating, and unstoppable. The origins of Blitzkrieg can be traced back to the interwar years. Germany, restricted by the Treaty of Versailles, sought innovative ways to regain its military prowess. It was during this period that Heinz Guderian, an astute military strategist, began formulating theories on fast-paced, mobile warfare. Drawing inspiration from British military theorists like J.F.C. Fuller and B.H. Liddell Hart, Guderian envisioned a strategy that emphasized speed and surprise. "Klotzen, nicht kleckern," he would often exclaim, urging his men to hit hard, don't dabble. But Blitzkrieg was more than just speed. It was a carefully orchestrated dance of combined arms tactics. The tanks, the Panzers, were the spearhead, punching through enemy lines and causing disarray. But they were not alone. Close behind were mechanized infantry and artillery, providing support and holding gains. Above, the Luftwaffe, Germany's formidable air force, dominated the skies, providing reconnaissance and striking at enemy rear areas. The first grand performance of this strategy was in Poland in 1939. The world watched in awe as the German military machine, employing Blitzkrieg, overran the Polish defences in a matter of weeks. The rapid encirclement and neutralization of key Polish units left the defenders reeling. One Polish officer, upon witnessing the onslaught, reportedly remarked, "They are not fighting, they are flying." Yet, Blitzkrieg wasn't just about brute force. It was psychological warfare. The sheer speed of the assault often left the enemy paralyzed, unable to formulate a coherent response. In the Battle of France in 1940, the German forces bypassed the heavily fortified Maginot Line, sweeping through the Ardennes, a move considered audacious by many. The French, expecting a prolonged battle, were caught off guard. General Erwin Rommel, leading the 7th Panzer Division, pushed deep into French territory, earning his unit the moniker Ghost Division, as Allied commanders frequently lost track of its position. The synergy between different arms was pivotal. An anecdote from the Battle of Sedan encapsulates this perfectly. As German Stuka dive bombers rained destruction on French positions, panzer crews on the ground could hear the distinct wail of the Stuka's sirens, fondly referred to as Jericho trumpets. The sound, while terrifying to the enemy, was a morale booster for the German ground forces, signaling that their airborne comrades were watching over them. But as with all strategies, Blitzkrieg had its limitations. It was heavily reliant on clear communication and a seamless supply chain. In the vast expanses of the Soviet Union during Operation Barbarossa in 1941, the strategy faced challenges. The vast distances, coupled with logistical strains, tested the limits of Blitzkrieg. Still, the initial months saw spectacular gains, with vast Soviet territories falling to the Germans. Guderian, reflecting on the nature of this rapid warfare, once mused, "The engine of the Panzer is a weapon just as the main gun." This statement epitomized the essence of Blitzkrieg. It wasn't just about firepower, it was about mobility, coordination, and the harmonious interplay of various arms. Steel Titans clashing, the rivalry of Panzers, Shermans, and T-34S. In the vast theatre of World War II, where the roar of engines and the cacophony of gunfire echoed across continents, a unique rivalry emerged. It was a rivalry not of men, but of machines, mighty armoured behemoths that defined the very nature of ground warfare. The German Panzers, the Russian T-34S, and the American Shermans. Each a marvel of its nation's engineering prowess, each with tales of valor, victory, and vulnerability. The Panzers, as we know, were the pride of the German Wehrmacht. Crafted with precision and designed for dominance, they were the embodiment of German military philosophy. But as they rumbled across Europe, two formidable adversaries awaited them. From the vast factories of Chelyabinsk and the genius of Mikhail Koshkin emerged the T-34. Introduced in 1940, its sleek design, featuring sloped armor and wide tracks, was a revelation. The T-34 wasn't just a tank, it was a statement, a testament to Soviet resilience and ingenuity. Its 76.2 mm gun and robust armor made it a formidable opponent. German tank ace Otto Carius once remarked, "We had no equal to the T-34. In a one-on-one battle, the T-34 was always superior." Such was the respect the T-34 commanded. Yet the Soviets were not just about brute force. The T-34 was surprisingly agile, often employing hit-and-run tactics that left the slower German tanks bewildered. Anecdotes from the Eastern Front speak of T-34 crews taunting their adversaries, luring them into traps, and then vanishing into the vast Russian landscapes. But as the war raged on, a new player entered the fray. Across the Atlantic, the industrial might of the United States gave birth to the M4 Sherman. Designed for mass production and adaptability, the Sherman was a symbol of American pragmatism. While not as heavily armored as the Panzers, or as innovative as the T-34S, the Shermans had a unique advantage: numbers. General George Patton, an advocate of aggressive tank warfare, famously said, "Wars may be fought with weapons, but they are won by men." The Shermans, with their sheer numbers and the indomitable spirit of their crews, embodied this philosophy. However, the Shermans had their vulnerabilities. Their high profile and relatively thin armor made them susceptible to German anti-tank weapons. Tales from the Battle of the Bulge speak of Sherman crews painting fake shadows and mud patterns on their tanks, attempting to deceive the enemy about the angle and direction of their armor. The encounters between these steel giants were epic. At the Battle of Kursk in 1943, the largest tank battle in history, Panzers and T-34S clashed in a duel of titans. The ground shook and the skies darkened with smoke as these armored behemoths fought for supremacy. And then there were moments of unexpected camaraderie. In the aftermath of a skirmish in Normandy, a German Panzer crew and an American Sherman crew found themselves sharing rations and stories, a brief respite from the horrors of war. Such was the duality of these times, moments of intense combat followed by fleeting instances of shared humanity. As these tanks roared across battlefields, they carried with them the aspirations and fears of their nations. The Panzers, with their precision engineering, epitomized German efficiency. The T-34, rugged and relentless, was a symbol of Soviet resilience. The Shermans, adaptable and numerous, reflected American industrial might. Echoes of iron, the Panzers dance in the crucibles of war. The dawn of June 22, 1941, was unlike any other. As the first light pierced the vast Russian landscape, Operation Barbarossa was set in motion. A colossal wave of German might, with panzer divisions at its vanguard, rolled eastward, marking the beginning of one of the largest military campaigns in history. The world watched, holding its collective breath, as the German war machine, tried and tested in the fields of Europe, clashed with the colossal Soviet Union. Leading the charge was Heinz Guderian, the mastermind behind Germany's armored warfare doctrine. With his panzer groups, he struck deep into Soviet territory, aiming to encircle vast enemy formations. The speed and ferocity of the German advance took the Red Army by surprise. Towns like Brest, Minsk, and Smolensk fell in rapid succession. Guderian, ever the strategist, remarked, "Always drive forward, never stop." And forward they went, pushing the boundaries of logistics and endurance. Yet, as the initial euphoria of rapid advances waned, the German forces faced the challenges of the vast Russian landscape, unpredictable weather, and a resolute enemy. The winter of 1941 saw the Panzers stalled at the gates of Moscow. Field Marshal Erich von Manstein, reflecting on the challenges, mused, "Russia is vast, and the Russian winter is long." But Barbarossa was just one chapter in the Panzers' story. The summer of 1943 bore witness to another epic, the Battle of Kursk. The German High Command, aiming to regain the initiative on the Eastern Front, launched a massive offensive against a salient in the Russian lines, near the town of Kursk. It was here that the largest tank battle in history would unfold, in the fields of Prokhorovka. Amidst the din of battle, tales of valor and ingenuity emerged. Joachim Peiper, a young Waffen-SS tank commander, displayed unmatched tenacity during the battle, leading his unit deep into enemy lines, often isolated and outnumbered. Yet he pressed on, embodying the German spirit of determination. The Soviets, having anticipated the German assault, had prepared a layered defense with anti-tank mines, fortified positions, and vast reserves. As the Panzers pressed on, they found themselves entangled in a web of defenses. Anecdotes from the battle speak of Panzer crews navigating minefields by physically getting out of their tanks and probing the ground with bayonets, a testament to their resolve. Yet, amidst the tales of bravery, there were moments of reflection. A German tank commander, upon capturing a Russian village, discovered a diary of a young Russian girl. The diary spoke of dreams, of hopes for the future, and the simple joys of life. The commander, deeply moved, ordered his men to treat the villagers with kindness. Such moments, fleeting amidst the chaos of war, highlighted the shared humanity of the soldiers, irrespective of the side they fought for. As the battle raged on, the skies above Kursk bore witness to another spectacle. The Luftwaffe and the Red Air Force clashed in fierce aerial duels, providing a backdrop to the armored clashes below. The roar of engines, both in the sky and on the ground, created a symphony of war, a testament to the scale and intensity of the battle. While the Battle of Kursk did not yield a decisive victor, it marked a turning point in the war on the Eastern Front. The initiative had shifted, and the German forces, though still formidable, were now on the defensive. David's arsenal, the Allied endeavour to tame the Panzer Goliaths. In the grand chessboard of World War II, as the German panzers roared and rumbled, casting shadows of terror across battlefields, the Allies scrambled. These steel titans, with their thick armour and devastating firepower, seemed almost invincible. But history has shown that where there's a will, there's a way. And so began the tireless Allied endeavour to find the Panzer's Achilles heel. By the early 1940s, it became glaringly evident to Allied commanders that conventional infantry weapons were often ineffective against the thick-skinned panzers. The need for specialized anti-tank weaponry was paramount. Enter the British QF 6-pounder, a swift and deadly anti-tank gun that made its debut in the North African desert in 1942. Its 57 mm shell, fired at high velocity, could pierce the armor of most German tanks of the time. Major John Semken, a British officer, once quipped after a successful engagement with panzers, "Give me a 6-pounder and a good crew, and I'll give you a graveyard of panzers." But the Allies didn't stop there. The vast expanses of Russia saw the deployment of the infamous ZS-3, a 76.2 mm divisional gun. Its adaptability was its strength. It doubled as both an artillery piece and an anti-tank gun. Its prowess was such that even the Germans, upon capturing them, would use them against their former owners. Yet it wasn't just about guns. The terrain and environment often played a pivotal role in anti-tank tactics. In the marshy landscapes of Russia, Soviet partisans would lure German tanks into boggy areas, rendering them immobile. Once stuck, these mechanical beasts were easy prey for anti-tank riflemen. Mines, the silent sentinels of the battlefield, were another crucial countermeasure. The British developed the Hawkins mine, a versatile anti-tank explosive that could be deployed by hand or dropped from vehicles. Its design was so effective that it could disable even the formidable Tiger tanks. There's an anecdote from the Battle of Normandy where a German panzer, treading cautiously, stopped to examine a suspicious-looking object on the ground. It turned out to be a discarded tin can, but the mere threat of mines had achieved its psychological effect. Across the Atlantic, the Americans were brewing their own solutions. The M1 bazooka, a man-portable anti-tank rocket launcher, gave infantrymen a fighting chance against German armor. Lightweight and relatively easy to use, it became a favorite among American GIs. Private Eugene Sledge, upon his first encounter with a bazooka, remarked, "It's like holding thunder and lightning in your hands." But perhaps the most audacious of all anti-tank measures was the development of sticky bombs. This grenade, coated in adhesive, could stick to tanks and was designed to be used in close-quarters combat. While not widely used, the very idea of soldiers getting close enough to slap a grenade onto a tank speaks volumes about the desperate ingenuity of the times. Yet, for all the technology and tactics, the human element was crucial. Anti-tank warfare required courage, patience, and nerves of steel. Soldiers often had to wait, concealed, allowing enemy tanks to approach dangerously close before striking. The psychological toll was immense. A Soviet anti-tank rifleman, reminiscing about his experiences, once said, "Every time I aimed at a panzer, I didn't see a machine, I saw a beast, and I had to remind myself, beasts can be tamed." Legacy of iron, from panzers to predators of the modern battleground. The tumultuous years of World War II, with their roaring panzers and thunderous battles, might have ceased, but their echoes reverberated long into the future. The German armoured behemoths, their designs, and the tactics employed had set the stage, and the world took notice. From the scorched sands of North Africa to the chilling expanse of the Russian front, German tank warfare left an indelible mark, shaping the contours of modern armoured combat. In the aftermath of the war, as nations scrambled to rebuild and rearm, the lessons from the German panzers were paramount. The world had witnessed the power of mobility, armour, and firepower fused into a singular devastating force. And it was this trinity that became the cornerstone of post-World War II tank designs. The late 1940s and 1950s saw a surge in tank development. The United States, having observed the prowess of the Panther and the Tiger tanks, embarked on projects to amalgamate speed, armour, and firepower. The result was the M48 pattern, introduced in 1952. Named after the legendary General George S. Patton, an advocate of aggressive tank warfare, the M48 bore semblances to the Panzers in its design philosophy, aiming for a balance between protection, firepower, and mobility. Across the Atlantic, the British, with memories of the formidable German tanks fresh in their minds, developed the Centurion. Introduced in 1945, the Centurion was more than just a tank. It was a symbol of British engineering prowess. With its powerful 105 mm gun and robust armour, it was reminiscent of the German emphasis on firepower and protection. Sir John Kilby, a decorated British tank officer, once said of the Centurion, "It carries the lessons of the war in its steel heart." But it wasn't just the West that took cues from the German panzers. The Soviet Union, having faced the brunt of the German armoured onslaught, was quick to adapt. The T-54, introduced in the late 1940s, was a testament to this adaptation. While its design bore the distinct Soviet touch, the influence of battles against German tanks was evident. Its sloped armour, a feature prominently seen in the T-34, was a direct counter to the powerful German tank guns. Anatoly Kirillov, a veteran tank designer, mused, "In the Panzers, we saw the future, and in our designs, we brought that future to life." The tactics employed by German tank commanders also found their way into post-war doctrines. The emphasis on combined arms, where tanks, infantry, and artillery operated in cohesive units, became a staple. The Israeli Defense Forces, during the Six-Day War in 1967, employed tactics reminiscent of the Blitzkrieg. Rapid advances, encirclements, and combined arms operations led to swift victories, echoing the German tank warfare of WW II. Yet, amidst this technological and tactical evolution, there were moments of reflection. As designers and strategists pored over blueprints and doctrines, they often found themselves revisiting anecdotes from the war. Tales of panzer crews, their camaraderie, their fears, and their undying spirit served as reminders that behind every machine was a human. A quote from Heinz Guderian, the mastermind behind Germany's armoured tactics, often resonated in these discussions. No tank is better than its crew. As the 20th century waned and the 21st dawned, the legacy of the German Panzers continued to influence tank designs and tactics. Modern main battle tanks, with their advanced armour, sophisticated weaponry, and state-of-the-art electronics, are a far cry from the panzers of yore. Yet, in their essence, in their purpose, and in their spirit, they carry forward the legacy of those ironclad predators of World War II. Echoes from steel chambers, whispers of men behind the machines. As dawn broke over the Eastern Front, in the winter of 1943, the vast white expanse was disrupted only by the distant rumbling of engines. Amidst this vast cold wilderness, a young Panzer crew member named Friedrich Müller prepared for another day of combat. But that morning, as he cleaned his tank's gun barrel, he found a small note tucked away, a message from a Soviet soldier named Alexei Ivanov. "To the one who finds this," it began, "I too have a family, dreams and hopes for a world without war." Müller, taken aback, pocketed the note, a reminder that the enemy was human too. Elsewhere in the sun-scorched deserts of North Africa, British infantryman James Thornton recalled an unexpected encounter. After a fierce skirmish, his unit stumbled upon an abandoned German panzer, its crew nowhere in sight. Curiosity led him inside, where he found a photograph of a young woman and a child, presumably the tank commander's family. On the back was a simple message, "Für Helene und Lukas, with all my love." In the midst of war's chaos, such tokens of love and longing were poignant reminders of the lives left behind. Amidst the cacophony of battle, the tales of maintenance crews often go unsung. Yet their stories are no less riveting. Hans Weber, a mechanic responsible for keeping the panzers running, often regaled his comrades with tales of ingenuity. Once, when a tank's engine failed in the midst of combat, Weber, with a blend of engineering prowess and sheer audacity, managed to get it roaring back to life using nothing but a leather belt and some spare parts. "It's not about the tools," he'd say, "it's about the will." The relationship between infantry and tanks was symbiotic, one of mutual respect and dependence. American infantryman Robert "Bobby" O'Connor, fighting in the dense hedgerows of Normandy, often spoke of the bond he shared with tank crews. During a particularly intense firefight, when his unit was pinned down by German machine gun fire, it was the timely intervention of an M4 Sherman that turned the tide. After the battle, O'Connor and the tank commander, Lieutenant Daniel Abrams, shared a flask of whiskey, sealing a friendship that lasted long after the war. Abrams often quipped, "Infantry digs in, tanks move forward, but together, we're unstoppable." But not all memories were of camaraderie and shared triumphs. The brutal reality of tank warfare also bore tales of loss and longing. Joseph Lehmann, a panzer commander on the Eastern Front, penned a series of letters to his beloved wife, Anna. In one of them, dated July 1943, he wrote, "Every time I close the hatch, I'm reminded of the world I leave behind. The roar of the engine drowns out the voices, but in the stillness of the night, I hear the laughter of our children, the soft lullabies you sing." These letters, discovered decades later in an old farmhouse, offered a glimpse into the soul of a man torn between duty and love. And then there were tales of unexpected friendships. In the aftermath of the Battle of the Bulge, a German panzer crew and an American Sherman crew, erstwhile enemies, found themselves sharing a makeshift campfire. As the cold winds howled, they exchanged stories, not of battles and strategies, but of homes, families, and dreams. For that brief moment, the uniforms didn't matter. They were just men, far away from home, yearning for peace. Guardians of Steel, the timeless vigil of tanks beyond battlefields. In the quiet corridors of the Tank Museum in Bovington, England, history comes alive. The walls echo with tales of valor, the floors vibrate with the rumblings of yesteryears, and amidst this symphony of memories stand the guardians of steel, the tanks of World War II. Their formidable presence, though now silent, speaks volumes of the eras they've seen and the battles they've braved. The museum, established in 1923, boasts one of the most extensive collections of armored vehicles in the world. One of its crowning jewels is the Tiger 131, the only operational Tiger I tank in existence. Rescued from the battlefields of Tunisia in 1943, it stands as a testament to the museum's dedication to preservation. Sir David Fletcher, a renowned historian associated with the museum, once remarked, "In these machines we don't just see metal and gears, we see stories, we see souls." Across the channel in Saumur, France, the Musée des Blindes beckons enthusiasts and history buffs alike. Established in 1965, this sanctuary of armored vehicles houses the elusive Panther tank. This particular Panther, having seen action in the Battle of Normandy, was found abandoned in a field, scarred by battle but intact. Its restoration, a labor of love spanning years, was led by the passionate André Becker. Becker, reflecting on the project, said, "Restoring this tank wasn't just about nuts and bolts, it was about resurrecting history." Venturing further east, the Kubinka Tank Museum in Russia stands as a sentinel of armored warfare. Established in the aftermath of World War II, it houses a vast collection, including the formidable King Tiger and the elusive Maus, the heaviest fully enclosed armored fighting vehicle ever built. The Maus, with its massive frame, stands as a symbol of the extremes of wartime engineering. Anatoly Kozlov, a curator at the museum, often tells visitors, "When you stand before the Maus, you're not just seeing a tank, you're witnessing the aspirations, dreams, and sometimes the hubris of an era." The journey of these tanks, from battlefields to museums, is often filled with tales of discovery and restoration. In a quaint village in Belgium, a farmer stumbled upon a buried Sherman tank while ploughing his field in 1985. This tank, having been lost during the Battle of the Bulge, was restored and now stands in the village square, a silent guardian of history. Beyond the tanks themselves, the human stories intertwined with these machines add layers to their legacy. In the corridors of the National Armor and Cavalry Museum in Fort Benning, USA, there's a touching anecdote of a World War II veteran who, during a visit, recognized a particular M4 Sherman. Tears in his eyes, he touched its cold metal and whispered, "Hello, old friend." It turned out he had served as its commander during the war. As these museums stand as custodians of history, they also serve as bridges, connecting generations. They remind visitors of the sacrifices of the past and the lessons for the future. In the words of Sir Winston Churchill, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." And in these sanctuaries of steel, history is preserved not just in metal and oil, but in stories, memories, and the undying spirit of the men who once rode these machines into the annals of time.